Joining us now to discuss is Don Kaufman. He's a co-founder of trading educator TheoTrade. Don, great to have you on the show. But you say that complacency in Bitcoin is unnerving as we see low volatility. Why?
Yeah, the low volatility is there's just not a huge amount of price action in there right now. So that lower implied volatility, that complacency, as you were just stating a moment ago, someone's buying the dip. Well, they're not buying it with a huge amount, again, of conviction, because effectively, if they were, I mean, Bitcoin wouldn't be trading like, an underlying with a nail in its foot. I mean, we've done 19,000, 20,000, 21,000 repeat. So again, that complacency right now, there's some fairly strong hands that are holding on to Bitcoin. A moment ago, you just had a miner on that's not really willing to effectively sell Bitcoin at these particular levels. I think we have some much weaker hands that are just holding on right now like it's grim death, waiting for some type of event or up move to be able to relinquish and eventually sell their Bitcoin.
So I know traders love volatility, but in periods of low volatility, I mean, what's the strategy in Bitcoin? Is it just not to go in at all and try to find the higher volatility in the stock market?
So again, I'm very much on that high volatility, high impact kind of trading side of things. I like to triangulate, if you will, things like Bitcoin. Then I'll trade some Bitcoin futures contracts. I'll even trade BITO, which of course is an ETF based on the Bitcoin futures. Kind of triangulate and try to do some arbitrage, which is next to impossible in a marketplace right now that's trading with this degree of complacency. One of the things that's a bit bothersome also at this point is that heavy volatility in the S&P 500, the heavy volatility in the NASDAQ markets, it's just not translating right now into crypto. So the correlation that we saw with the NASDAQ is effectively dead for the time being. I believe we need to see that ultimately come back to kind of get us through this. As I said, it is really an unnerving kind of complacency in a marketplace. I've seen this before in bear markets, and this is where everybody goes, it's going to be consolidation. We're going to break out. But again, think about all of the miners and all of the traders that are holding positions, and they're effectively waiting to sell at higher prices, which every time we actually start to breach into that 21,000, sell side activity comes racing back in.
Yesterday, when the Fed made its decision to hike rates fourth consecutive time by 75 basis points, we did see a momentary spike in Bitcoin. I wonder if you traded any of that volatility, and why did we see that, and what might we see going forward?
So it's interesting and ironic that you mentioned that, because yesterday is one of the first days in a while that I was looking for that volatility. I'm set up, I'm ready to execute, and it was so fast. It was like just a flash in the pan. I didn't even get an execution off in the midst of that. Again, a lot of the previous Fed announcements that we saw, even the Jackson Hole meeting, had some volatility associated with it. And again, that's where I'm saying there's just this utter complacency in this marketplace right now that just doesn't resonate very well with me. At this point, I know it sounds a little painful to say this, but I believe we need to go through a major period of capitulation, like a huge capitulation event that really shakes out some of the weaker hands, even forces some of the miners to sell. We need to consolidate. We got to spark new interest. I mean, at the 20,000 level, it's pretty evident. No one wants to come in here. No new blood wants to come in here and necessarily be a buyer. We got to actually kind of reignite crypto. And to do that, unfortunately, I think we're going to have to trade down. And I've said this before coming on here. I think we're going to be down in the low teens, possibly 13,000, before you actually get that kind of new blood in there. We need to see volatility. And, I always use this phrase, traders, you have to feel the fear before this is over.